Welcome to DAM for Media Entertainment, part of DAM Industry Week 2022. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce your event chair for today, Graham Allen. He's the Managing Director at Deloitte Consulting. Graham, over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. Welcome to the second day of the epic virtual adventure that is DAM Industry Week. Thanks to all of you attendees from across the globe for joining us to explore digital asset management from every angle. Maddie Solomon led us so splendidly through the first act yesterday, all about DAM for CPG and retail. And if you want to catch up on any of those sessions, just click yesterday's date on the left-hand side of the agenda tab. Today, it's my great honor to slide into the director's chair and queue up an amazing cast of speakers as we turn our lens to media and entertainment. Now, the media business has one of the longest histories of using DAM. We actually talked quite a bit about that at last year's event. And we can trace a lot of our familiar DAM concepts and capabilities back to something that was invented to solve a problem in film or television or games or publishing. The vast number of digital files for even the simplest animation or visual effects shot, for example, or great piles of photographs for a magazine. And these were challenges for media back in the 1990s when there were no commercial DAM products available to choose from. Many tools were custom developed and not necessarily all that flexible. Over the last 30 years, we have seen enormous progress in the tools and technologies and products as DAM has matured and become a mainstream capability for so many companies and even industries, not just media, which has made our lives easier. But we still find ourselves on a bit of a bleeding edge sometimes, whether that's DAM functionality or how complex our metadata is, how sophisticated an expectation our users have, or just plain old scale and performance, that vast number of files thing. And so how we find ourselves still at the front of the DAM train and how media and entertainment use cases are still unique and distinct in driving that train forwards. That's what we want to explore here today. And we have a great lineup of top DAM talent from studios, content creators, distributors, and from some of the sharpest technical minds shaping the technologies we use. These are the people with the vision of what's next for DAM in our business. Now, we're all virtual today, but Henry Stewart's in-person events for DAM and creative operations are back. Yay! This year in New York and London, and early next year in Los Angeles. Registrations are open, save yourself a spot and take advantage of the early bird offers today. We are excited finally to raise a glass, safe and healthy glass, with you in person very soon. Even though we're missing that live experience here today, we do still have some things going on throughout the day to help fill in some of that missing void. You can click on the exhibition tab at any time during the day to visit our sponsors, learn about their latest products and services, or head to the lounge tab for networking with your colleagues and all of your fellow attendees here. During the sessions, you can chat with your delegates, your fellow delegates, and of course, submit questions to the current speaker or panel, and that's using the box on the right-hand side of your screen. Please ask questions. Make the most of the awesome brain trust we have assembled for you here today. We'll do our best to get to as many as we can. Lastly, if you find you need any assistance or support from the Henry Stewart team, use the chat bot, which is that funky little bubble in the bottom right of your screen. But we promise it's more than a bot, and you'll get connected to some very helpful real people there. So that's our housekeeping. Now on with the show. And to start that show, we have a fantastic story about not just the technology, but mindset and approach to DAM evolving to meet the needs of the world around us. To tell us about how Disney Parks Experiences and Products is tackling this, we welcome Charles Duncan, Technical Project Manager there. Charles introduced some aspects of this at this event last year, actually, talking about inclusive design. And he joins us today to show how much further that envelope is being pushed now. Charles, welcome. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Graham. This is exciting. Let's get right into it here. All right, so today we're talking about the metaverse, Metaverse DAM, and how we connect our DAM world into the 3D world. And we're going to be exploring that a lot today. Before I introduce myself, I do want to go over the agenda. So we're going to be talking about virtual products. Metaverse real estate is free, and the business allure is amazing because you have an extremely low cost to create products and experiment, and then you have this vast reservoir of a universe to put it in. So this is why this is such a big deal, is the metaverse real estate being free on a number of levels, even like virtually in your own room, but actually out on the world with augmented reality. So that's why this is an important topic. And today we're going to be looking at the intersection of 2D to 3D. Our goal is to have any one of our designs coming out of our DAM placed upon any one of our products, both virtual and physical. And we have a key inflection point today. And so that's the part where we're going to focus in, is that inflection point. In doing so, we're going to be looking at web standards because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to leverage all the things that tech has already solved, and we want to be able to scale using known practices with known patterns and resourcing, because there's a lot of people that are already familiar with these practices, and it's just we're leveraging how we take those practices and apply them to move DAM into the virtual world. And then finally, there's a mystery topic. If any of you have seen me talk in the past, you might even guess what this is, but this is the part where I'm super passionate about, and that's important for everybody. Before I introduce myself, there is a chance to participate for free today. I would highly recommend this. You can even use your own content and try to get started. So you just need to go to optica.com, that's with 2 Ks. There's a sign up button down on the lower left. You'll enter your email and password. You'll get a code. You enter that code and then you log in, and voila, you'll be able to get your hands on everything today. So I'm going to give you time to do that while I introduce myself. So my name is Charles Duncan. I am a creative pipeline enthusiast. Love creative supply chain. I've spent gallons of money on DAM, on many enterprise DAM systems across many segments, global user bases, localized search, all of those things, lots of assets, millions of assets, and super complicated security models, even nested security models within models. Latest project I worked on was Disney Plus, preparing for the largest event-driven sales spikes known to mankind. On the personal side, I also do content production. So I've worked in the 3D world for a long time. I've also worked in what they call DAGs, which is directed acyclic graphs. We'll see that today. And then constructing of render pipelines. What I love today, what's going on, is intelligent compositing with smart images. We're getting away from static-based content to intelligence on many levels. And we're going to see that today. And then on a subtle personal note, I am visually impaired. So what you're going to see today is how we take our products from our product information system and how we take our designs from DAM and start to put those in an experience. And we'll look at the metaverse today, but keep in mind the more important word is really experience, because there's many different channels and blending of channels when it comes to metaverse and the physical world, augmented reality, how you render websites, how immersive are your experiences, especially your shopping experiences when you want to move product. And that's really the kind of the key is product. And so today we're going to be using Optica to take those two worlds and combine them in preparation for you to go out to that experience. So we're going to be using dynamic media along with product visualization, okay? So let's get right into it. Jumping over, for those of you who are logged in, you're going to see a screen a little something like this. So let's grab an asset from the DAM and let's put it in the metaverse, okay? So I'm actually going into this blank studio right here. I'm going to grab an asset from the DAM. I'm just going to select this guitar here. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little better. Let's change up the styling. And let's pivot that into 3D. Voila. Now you can start to see how quickly we can take a product and start to manipulate this in the DAM. It's so fast, it's almost anticlimactic. To go back to Graham's point, boy, have we come a long way when it's that simple to take one of your designs and put it in the virtual world in preparation for virtual products. So then you say, but Charles, well, what if I don't have a DAM? What if I'm a smaller shop? Or what if I'm just a designer and an artist? No problem. Let's pull this right off the desktop, okay? So I'm actually selecting a design. It's our next franchise character. Pulling that in, importing it. Take that, pivot to 3D, and just like that, you've got an experience where you are putting your design directly on your product, like that. Still have the ability to come over here, manipulate your layers, do all the things that you're used to with your layerization and all of that. Like, wow, it's taken a long time for us to get to this particular point. So what Optica is doing is it's basically, it's like a staging ground for you to have a 3D world that you can develop in, create stylings, create products, create variations, and then eventually deploy that to where it needs to be, all right? And you say to yourself, but yeah, Charles, I don't have 3D models, or I'm not into the world where I have virtualization yet. You do have 3D model. If you are in a DAM with any type of imagery, you are working off of a 2D plane. It happens to be that plane is in an ortho camera, meaning it has no depth. Let's take a look at that real quick. So let's go back here. This is what we pulled out of our DAM, right? And let's put that on a plane. You see the difference? Not really. There is no difference. That's because when you take away depth and you're looking at a 2D plane in an ortho view, you have no depth, but it's the same concept. You're just working in a 2D plane and 2D space, okay? So let's look underneath the hood and see what's going on behind the background and all the stuff that you don't have to worry about. So all of these reality systems, all these systems where they're managing lots and lots of information, work off directed acyclic graphs, okay? And if you've never played in one of these, you should. They're really cool and really fun, but you don't have to. This is what Optica is abstracting away from you, but you need to know how you're interacting with that universe. And so right here, what's great, like these nodes can get huge, and you use programming to actually build some of these because they get so large. But here I can see we've got a sphere and a hair system. So I'm guessing that this is a head with hair on it. Don't even need to see what's going out to kind of be able to read this node. But where you're focused on today is how you get your design or your image from the DAM into this world. And so you're using a texture node right here. Textures are applied to materials. Materials give it like the lighting, reflection, and all of that. And then you put that on a shape. That's how you take your design and put it in a 3D world. However, you need to adhere to what's going on in the world and understand what the rules are in that world. So let's get started. Let's do a baseball cap, simple product, because everybody can get their head around what's going on there. So you start to try to build your virtual experience. You wanted this, but you ended up with this. And you say, why? That's because when you create a virtual reality, you are defining time and space. You need a means of measurement. And that's what they call world scale. We need to own our world scale. Not only do we need to own our world scale, but we need to know how it applies to our 2D space. And that's where we bring in an open source language called Styleables. I've been talked about this last year. Styleables is a way for you to add a measurement when you're entering into this world. It allows you to conform your content in a way that's predictable when you go into a virtual world. So let's look at what that enables us to do when it comes to this piece that we're talking about right now. So we blast back out. I'm gonna go into an e-commerce example, and then right there, you've got your cat, okay? All that being normalized so that you can still kind of play with that in the way that you're used to, just like that. This is when we own world scale, we're able to normalize what's going on so that we have predictability and we understand how we can normalize everything that's we're tagging and things of that nature. We'll get into that a little bit later. So is the metaverse for real? You better believe it's real. It might not be what you think it is, as we're seeing today, but it is one of the biggest things that I've seen in a long time. So blockchain, machine learning, graph database. By the way, graph databases, if there's anybody with dams that's using a graph database underneath the hood of their dam, can you please get a hold of me? Because I would love to see more graph databases going on. But out of all of this stuff, the metaverse is by far, I think, the biggest potential I've seen in a long, long, long time. You've got virtual products, you've got pipeline accelerations, and this is actually also going to drive our mystery topic today. So let's look at our pipeline and operations. So we're starting out in our studio where we're shooting our feature film. This is like a 3D environment where we've got our moving picture frames, okay? We're locking down our camera to get to our shot. And then we render out our shot, probably go through some compositing right here. And then we're placing that on our products. This is our, all of our pipelines look a little something like this. We're going from studio to physical world. You've also got your licensing going on. This is licensing, extremely large business. And so now we have virtual products. And what's interesting about this is where you start to find out how old you are. Like me, you start to ask yourself, what, are people really buying this stuff? Is this really happening? It is happening. It's been happening. So all the kids these days, as they say, are already getting virtual characters. They're buying virtual outfits for their characters. They're paying money for this. And then yes, NFTs, are you serious? Yeah, NFT, the non-fungible tokens, where you can actually own a digital piece of content and prove that you own it, is it actually a real thing? But what's I think is more fascinating is how the metaverse can accelerate our pipeline, okay? Because you guys all know me, who've seen me in the past, I'm all about creative agility and stylistic time to market. It's about money. The longer it takes you to get to market, the more you're incurring costs and you can't respond to market changes in the market. So we need accelerations through our pipeline. And that's where the metaverse actually comes in. So let's look at an example of that. So let's presume that when we started out this franchise and they started shooting out all the episodes, that we were operating on a color palette, something like this. This is what the brand is roughly looking like, okay? And so everything's starting to move. We're firing up our licensing. We have product prototyping going on. We're experimenting with our digital world. And we start to farm out to agencies to create marketing materials, right? So we've already farmed out to ad agencies. We need some marketing materials. And what happens is the studio will continue to evolve. The franchise will continue to evolve. And let's say that they pivot to something like this. And now we've kind of changed our styling. By the way, as I'm showing you this, it's just the colorization right now, but you can do all kinds of stuff. I'm just using colors to keep it simple. But let's just say that in the meantime, we pivoted to this, okay? So as we farmed out, we need to account for this. And so when it comes to getting those assets back from our ad agencies, here I am pulling out our PSD files, and I start pulling those in, we need to pivot those to the new brand because we changed our brand. And so we need to do this quickly. And we don't want to go incur the cost of having them do all that again. And we certainly don't want to have to do all of it by hand. But this is where this is all helping us. Like, look at that. As simple as that click. That's how quickly we are moving. That's how the virtualization is accelerating our pipeline. All right. Okay, so to go back, what Optica is doing is it's providing you this 3D staging ground, but it's providing you with a sense of measurement. It's a sense of scale. It's world scale, not literal. I know there's 3D people out there who are going to say that, Charles, that's not really world scale. It is in this context. It is a protocol that we can all adhere by with our pipelines and our agencies and everyone who's tethered to be speaking the same language. And then Optica also does this thing where it provides design tokens, pixel-based design tokens. So Charles, what is a design token? Well, this is where we pivot into the tech world, and we start to leverage all of this, because this has already been figured out a long time ago in the tech world with design tokens. So here I'm showing just a standard web experience where we've got 3 buttons, okay? And the HTML code looks a little something like this, all right? And you can see in here that you can read this. Yeah, it's a button, $6.99 a month. Oh, that's this one here, and the color is black. Okay, great. And so if you look at something like a Netflix or any one of these strong brands that are out there, they've got this stuff all over their site. So you've got thousands of lines of code that look like this. And so what happens when you want to change color in that world? You're not going to go through every single 1,000 line and change this to red. Okay, so that's where the tech world uses cascading style sheets to make it so there's a central location to where that button color is, because they put classifications on all the buttons, and these button classes all refer to this object, which then holds the value. Great. Now we have the ability to affect many things with a single line of code. However, in the tech world, you actually end up with thousands of classes, believe it or not. So this actually still becomes a problem. So that's where they invented this thing called SAS. You can look it up. I'm not going to get into details. It'll bore everybody. But basically, you put a design token in here that's an abstraction of your primary brand. And then you have one singular location where you're specifying the color of your brand, and that propagates out to the entire stack. Okay? That is what Optica is doing right here. It's providing you with design tokens to reach inside of your virtual world. So now we have really gained an understanding of how we can conform our protocol as we enter into the metaverse. And so this is where this 2D to 3D inflection point becomes super powerful, because now you've got it all over where we're using design tokens and everybody's on the same page. We got the product teams, the design teams, the tech teams, our ad agencies, everybody's on the same page. So I pulled this slide up from last year because I love this slide. This is an underrated slide. Let's look at our pipeline here. We've got our shot creation, which we just saw. Stylization is where we add the finesse of our brand, maybe hand texture, some paintings and such. Business enrichment is where we put in our metadata and our security models, all the thing that we know about DAM today. And then finally, delivery. And DAM is always this inflection point, right? This is where we go from the creative world over here into the business world. It's a very distinct black line. That's where DAM resides, rightfully so. It's really good at doing that. But what I keep talking about is we spend all of our time trying to accelerate right here. And there's a lot of great tools for acceleration. Yeah, we do need acceleration right there because there's a lot that goes on in our deployments when we go, but this is all business process, okay? What I'm talking about is actually creative process. And this is where Styleables allows you, as an open source language protocol, to reach up into the creative side of your business to accelerate your pipeline and create products faster, get to market faster, okay? But what's great about this year is it's actually expanding now to get all the way up to shot creation. And this is where it gets super exciting. So let's do it again. Let's traverse the pipeline. You guys ready for this? Let's go in. We're going to pull out some products from the DAM. Let's get some products going on. Let's take this bib. Let's see what else. Let's get a basketball hoop here. And one more. Let's take the mug. All right. And I'm going to take one off my desktop. So I'm actually going to grab my design off my desktop. Boom. Everything's conforming really great. Let's pivot this into our shopping experience so that we see something like this. All right. pull up our design, put it into our 3D space, and bam, like that. That's how fast this is. Wow. Okay. So now that we've seen the power, with great power comes great responsibility. And this is where it really gets great for me. Okay. And this brings us to our mystery topic. When I was 15 years old, I went to go get my driver's license. And first time I ever got hit with this in the face. Went in to take a test. I saw this. Now, for me, I don't see anything in this picture. All these dots are the same. Can't tell you what's in that, right? But when I drop this inside of Optica, boom, I now see the word love. So I'm talking about inclusive first design. As we start to set out into the metaverse, and as we start to create these products, and as we're using our Styleables language to normalize how we're doing it, we better use inclusive first design. This is our moment. This is our moment to bring along everybody into the metaverse with us, including those with visual impairments. So when we're using our design tokens to go across our domains here, whether it be our e-commerce channel or our metaverse channel, whatever you've got going on, this is the moment where we introduce inclusive first design. Remember mobile first design and how powerful mobile first was, and how now everything is mobile first, and frankly, it made us better designers? Well, that's what inclusive first design is. It makes us better designers. So let's take a look at that. Let's go back to our e-commerce thread here. Take this, pivot to that. Wow. We're now able to provide high contrast experiences with those with visual impairments. And we're doing it using our protocols. Okay, this is going to make you better designers. This is going to make your products better by doing this. All right. So how does this actually work? So let's take a look at the Styleables language a little bit. This is where you guys gotta hang with me now, because it's gonna get geeky. All right. So this is what it looks like, the Styleables language that we're injecting into our content. And I want you to focus on this accent over here. We've got an accent and a complementary accent. For those of you who are following along at home, sorry, let me do that again. I'm going in this style guide right here. This is actually a gallery for Styleables. Clicking in this, and then there is your palette button up on the upper left. You can either click the right arrow, or there's an edit icon right down here. And I want you to go to the third color down. That's the accent color. And I want you to grab it and start moving it around and look at what's going on the accent tiles. See that? That's how Styleables responds and makes your images dynamic in preparation to go into virtual worlds. This one is my favorite, Tone X. Watch Color X. What's going to happen if you grab your primary color up here and start to go to a white palette? This Tone X is going to go black because it knows it's going to go on a white background. Look at that. It's always trying to offset itself from the back so that it's always readable. Pretty cool. And let me expand upon a little this when we talk about asset classification, then I'll show you an example in a moment. So here you have your samples of asset classification. So what does that mean? Let me make sure I can bring out these colors a little bit, make it easier to see. Second, I'm going to do it like that. Okay. So asset class is primarily what the content mechanism is of your image coming in from the DAM, okay? And so this is, again, using the Styleables language. If you turn it off like that, you can just see like PR is product, icon is IC is icon, AV is avatar. By the way, these are web practices. Guys doing tech do all this all the time. I would strongly encourage you to learn what's going on here. You don't have to use this, by the way. It's super powerful. You don't have to use this. If I can remember at the end, I'm going to show you how you don't have to use any of this language, but you really should be aware that this language exists and that's what it's being used for. So what does this actually mean? This means that you have something like this in your world scale. An icon is small, avatar is larger, design, product, model, scene. And these have inferred relationships. So if you are labeled as a product, you can have a nested design. If you're labeled as a model, you can have a nested product and a nested design. If you're in a scene, you can have more than one model. By the way, models don't have to be humans. A model can be a car. It's anything with your product on it. So it's a carrier of the product. So you actually have an inferred relationship between all these. And that's what these asset classes are representing when you're flagging your stuff, right? So if you look at like the design I showed earlier and how I was able to traverse that so quickly is because this is what's coming in. You've got an asset class design, tone type dark, asset class design, color is accent. You get used to reading this language. This is pretty, and by the way, I hope all of you people who are into metadata are just foaming at the mouth right now, because this is actually one of the coolest stuff. All right, so let's begin to wrap up by showing some other examples of what this basically starts to unlock, all right? We talk about product localization. Look at that. The ability to pivot to our local audience with a click of just a click. All right, let's do one more. I'm going in, for those of you who are following along, I'm going in this demographics gallery right now. In the upper right corner, there's a control panel. You can expand that. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And switch to teens, switch to kids, all while we're maintaining our accessible design. Like, how cool is that? All right. So let's recap. What Optica is doing is it's taking our products in our pipeline. It's basically giving us a 3D stage with a known world scale that we can play within. And then it's preparing us to go out to all of our channels, the Metaverse and the CDN. It doesn't matter whether or not you're deploying to e-commerce as 2D, you can still do all of that. So that's what we're having today. All right, what's next? So I'll be on a metadata panel later today, talking a little bit about serialized file naming and the importance of that. You can also hit me in on LinkedIn, Charles Duncan, probably search for Disney, you'll get a hit. And for those of you who have signed in, there is a request trial account button. I'm going to be doing some free instructional sessions over the next couple of weeks. Please click that if you are into providing an inclusive first design process and trying to accelerate your pipeline. I'll be more than happy to spend time with anybody who's following these accessibility use cases inside their product world to be able to move forward. So if you want, click this button and then you can attend one of the free sessions coming up over the next couple of weeks. And so that's it. Thank you guys all. Enjoy your day. I'm going to kick back over to Graham now.
I think we do actually have time for a couple of questions. You know, you showed us a relatively straightforward application of Styleables to, explain and, story tell this. I'm wondering how sophisticated can it get? How, can you connect in with, things like render passes from the studio upstream? How far can you push that?
Yes, render passes. So for those of you who don't know what render passes are, when you're inside of their 3D world, creating your studio, your feature film, you're in their studio feature film. Render passes come out where you have each element kind of like on a layered PSD, where it's pre-composite. You go into post-compositing. So you take, like, the eyes are on its own layer, the skin is on its own layer, the clothing is on its own layer. And so the answer is yes. In fact, so what you would do is you would basically put in your scripting where you're doing your render passes, you would write the Styleables language into those files that are coming out. You could drop those into Optica, it would instantly work. Yes, absolutely.
So very sophisticated then. Excellent. You also showed us some automation where things were happening based on pre-configured rules. How far can that envelope be pushed? You were showing us some relatively straightforward accessibility-oriented dimensions of automation. How far do you think that can be pushed? Because that's a huge help. You can automate.
Yeah. So the first thing is with this inclusive first design mentality, I would strongly encourage everybody watching to understand this today. Like this is a big shift. But yeah, if you're doing your asset classifications across your layers, then you can actually automate the compositing, and this is where intelligent compositing comes in, to create that accessible experience just using those tags. So keep in mind, you want to use those tags anyway, because that's helping you go into your virtual world with normalization. But then those tags with their inferred data relationships then can be composited out to automate the accessible portion of that. So you just have to be smart in how you're structuring your content.
What do you think the DAM product or technology partners can do to embrace and adopt this? We have actually quite a number of them tuned in here today, and they are the people delivering the technology into business hands. What would you recommend they do to embrace and adopt this?
Well, I think again, I'm going to keep beating this accessibility thing. So accessibility is something that's becoming super important because of litigation primarily, right? And so what you need to be aware of is that your customers are probably going through this, where they're looking at their experience and they're trying to figure out, like, for example, there's a plugin called Dark Reader out there, and it's an assistive tech for people with visual impairments. The problem with it is that it hijacks the experience. It can do unpredicted results on your end product. So the DAM companies out there should be realizing that their customers are facing, when they finally go out the door with their delivery after they've spent millions of dollars on trying to get to that moment to sell their products, that their experience is being hijacked in certain situations. So understanding that accessibility is real, understanding that it is solvable, actually it's already been solved, but understanding that then if you have your inclusive first design mentality, the entire shift is going to happen. Just like mobile first, accessible first. I mean, it's going to shift the way your customer is going to be talking to you.
Maybe one quick final question. You're setting, I think, quite an ambitious destination, appropriately so, an ambitious destination as a call to action, for our users and businesses out there watching. What would you recommend as a first step on that journey for folks that are not yet on a journey of inclusive first or accessible, or something as rich as connecting a DAM experience all the way through to a product experience?
Yeah, I would say that if you are a smaller company and you're looking to compete, you need to have all the tools at your arsenal, because it's the only way that you can scale at the velocity that's needed. The other thing I will say again is that virtual products, if you're not thinking about virtual products, you better be, because they're so lucrative and it's so wide open. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you're only restricted by your imagination. Now, not everybody's going to go out and build a metaverse. Like, that's a big deal. That's a whole 3D implementation. But there are things that are coming online where they're providing standard platforms that will hold the metaverse. You're going to go into a place where it already exists, but you just want to drop in your products. So you need to start understanding these tool bases, because otherwise, look, it's so lucrative and it's going to accelerate your pipeline. It's going to make you competitive, because you can have your virtual product right next to a big company's virtual product, and you can be like right there, just like Amazon kind of leveled the playing field for all the retailers to be right there at their fingertips. Same thing.
Awesome. What a wonderful and thought-provoking way to start our day. Thank you very much. And as Charles teased, he's going to be back a little bit later in the day and join our panel. Now, up next, you're going to click over to the Tech Lab to join Chris Arnold and Jack Rowley of Fred Rogers Productions and Carly Hill of Media Valet for an intriguing case study in media management and enrichment. By the way, as the day progresses, you will need to click explicitly in to each session as it starts. And you can click start heading on over to that Media Valley Tech Lab session right now. We will see you there shortly.